Hello, you amazing people. Welcome back. Today we are diving right back into the subreddit r/choosingbeggars with a flight nightmare special. We're going to be reading 4 longer stories about begging choosers on flights. So if you like this kind of content, don't forget to like and subscribe. And let's just dive right on in. Guess I'm hopping on the plane story trend. A few years back, 2 friends and I decided fairly last minute to go to San Diego over spring break. The plane had very few seats left and we ended up all getting seated separately. Fast forward to the flight. We're boarding the plane. I get to my assigned seat. It's between 2 teen boys. I excuse myself and sit down between the 2 of them. They just sit there blatantly staring at me. My friend ends up in the row in front of me, seated in the middle between a husband and wife. Husband gets up and trades seats with my friend. Not a big deal. One of the teen boys, I'll call him TB, decides to say something to me.
You're in the wrong seat. You need to move.
Sorry, this is the seat on my ticket.
You're not supposed to be sitting there.
I get my ticket out at this point and show him.
Dad!
Husband from the row in front of us stands up and turns around.
She's in her seat and isn't moving.
We didn't buy the middle seats. Why don't you trade seats to sit next to your brother?
But you said we'd get the row to ourselves. It's not fair.
Did you think we were going to buy an extra seat so you didn't have to sit next to anyone? Offer to switch or cut it out. TB is red at this point and grumbles at me that he'll trade seats with me. I swapped seats with him, ended up in the aisle. I could see him out of my peripheral for the entire 4-hour plane ride, glaring at me and making faces. Back in 2006, I was returning to Australia from 3 months in Norway, had flown Larvik to Schiphol and was tired as I had a 13-hour wait in the terminal in Schiphol for my KLM flight to Narita, Japan. I always book my flights months before my travel and had also booked the specific seats on each leg of my trip. Always window seats as they allow me to tuck a pillow up against the window and go right to sleep. A gentleman seated himself in the middle seat on my right. I put on my headphones to stop anyone from chatting with me, put my pillow against the window, and proceeded to shut my eyes and think of sheep, only to have my right earbud pulled from my ear and have a finger jabbed into my right upper arm. Rude neighbor. I asked you if you could swap seats with my wife. Me, enraged but talking calmly. Excuse me? Rude neighbor. My wife and I are on our honeymoon and I want her to sit next to me. Swap seats with her. Me, where is your wife? Rude neighbor. There. Points to woman standing about 3 rows ahead in the middle seat. Wife gives me a little wave. Me. She is in the middle seat? Rude neighbor. Yes. Now get up and go swap with her. Me. No, I booked a window seat. I am tired and wish to sleep for this leg of my trip, so I am not giving up my seat for a middle one. Rude neighbor, with voice now rising to anger. What does it matter? You can sleep in the middle seat. I want my wife here with me. Me. Then you should have planned, as I did, and booked the seat you wanted. I am not moving. If you touch me again, I will make a complaint, so leave me alone. Proceeded to put my earbuds back in and get comfy again. Rude neighbor. Now so loud I see a steward head over. I want my wife here with me. Move, bitch. Proceeds to poke me again. The steward asks me what is going on. I tell her all that transpired while rude neighbor glares and occasionally interjects with angry remarks. Steward then looks at us and says, I think we have some room in business class. Rude neighbor, that sounds better. About time we got some decent service here. We are on our honeymoon after all. Steward, sorry sir, not for you. Would you like to get your things and I will show you to your new seat so these 2 can sit together? I grabbed my stuff quicker than I thought I could move. Meanwhile, rude neighbor is going on about bad service, his wife, his honeymoon, them deserving the seats more than me, etc. Me to rude neighbor as I exited the row. Have a nice flight, sir. Funnily enough, business class was nearly empty and I still ended up with a window seat, which was moot as the entire seat turned into a bed, which I slept on oh so comfortably all the way to Japan. With all of these flight seat stories popping up, I figured I would share mine. It's not as impressive as some of the others, but funny nonetheless. A few months ago, me and one of my coworkers were on a flight booked through Southwest. Now, if you haven't flown Southwest before, then you might not know that seating is first come, first serve, but there is the option to check in to the flight 24 hours in advance to be able to board the plane first. I have flown Southwest numerous times, so I am no stranger to their process, and I'm almost always ready to click check in at the exact 24-hour mark to be able to get the best seats available for myself and whoever might be traveling with me. That time comes and I'm able to get A1 and A2, which means other than special needs passengers, me and my buddy board first and second. We go to the seats we like best, which is an emergency exit row, the one that has only 2 seats versus all others having 3 seats per row. We are both over 6'2", so having legroom is pretty nice, and only having 2 seats in that row is an added bonus, so we don't have to deal with other people. We put our bags overhead and take our seats and watch as the rest of the plane boards. The emergency exit seats normally fill pretty quick as the plane boards, and today was no exception. They were filled within the first 5 minutes. About halfway through boarding, a man approached my buddy who had the aisle seat and said, "Excuse me, but this is where my wife and I always sit." Without even hesitating, my buddy said, "Well, that sucks." Dumbfounded and not knowing how to respond, the guy just stood there for a second, staring at my buddy and said, "Can you find another seat? This is where my wife and I always sit." Trying to not make a big deal out of the situation, I asked him if there are any more emergency exit rows still open, and if there was, we could move to one of them. He looked around as I did, so I told him I'm sorry, but we really need the legroom and we were going to stay there. About this time, his wife had made her way down, and the husband informed her what was going on, and she quickly and snarkily said, "Look, this is where we always sit, so we need you two to find another seat." As I started to say that there is no assigned seating, my buddy, who is a natural asshole, cut me off saying, "Well, this is where we always sit, so y'all can go find another seat." They exchanged a few words, nothing explicit or insulting, more like a pissing contest of who could be the bigger asshole, as a flight attendant came walking up. As she walked up, she said, "Sir, could you find a seat, please, so the other passengers can board?" His wife quickly replied, "These are our seats. Can you please tell them to move?" At this point, I was pretty aggravated and told the lady as well as the flight attendant, "No, we did not take their seats. We sat here before they were even on the plane. So no, these are not your seats. Just because you have sat here before doesn't mean that you sit here every time. And if you want to sit here again, you should do what everyone else does and check in to your flight beforehand, just like we did." She went on to say something along the lines of, "We did check in, so we should have those seats." The flight attendant quickly shut her down with, "Ma'am, the seats are not assigned, but first come, first serve. So if you would like to sit here in the future, you can check in sooner, but for now, I need you to find a seat elsewhere so we can continue boarding." They finally left us alone and walked off, mumbling something under their breath that sounded a whole lot like, "We should have flown Delta to find a seat somewhere else." Either way, the seats are still first come, first serve. Seen the other airline post here and thought I'd add my 2 pennies worth. I travel a lot, both for business and pleasure, and a lot of my stuff is very long haul, so 10 to 12-hour flights or even longer. From time to time, if I see that I'm separating a couple or a small family group, I offer to swap seats. It's no great hardship if I'm on a short leg in economy, and long haul I'm generally in NV class, so it's no great problem there either. I was connecting through Amsterdam, having flown back from Santiago de Chile, and trust me, that is a very, very long run. Generally something like 16 hours flying time, depending on where you connect. Frankfurt, Madrid, Sao Paulo, or Buenos Aires are the usual choices. Now, British Airways runs a direct non-stop service from London, which is great help, and even that is over 14 hours. Anyway, there is an extremely fat American lady in my window seat holding her son, aged maybe 5 or 6, so he can see out the window. I have picked up some bug in South America and am feeling like shit as well as travel tired. I just want to get home to London and go to bed. "Excuse me, you're in my seat." "Oh yeah, I'm holding him up." "Yes, but you're in my seat, not him." "Would you trade your seat for his?" She indicated the center seat. I contemplated having to sit next to Miss Overflow. The seat, seriously, Japanese whaling ships would have set course for her, and said politely that I'd prefer my booked seat. She turned snotty. "My little boy just loves to see the airplanes." I have been traveling for 20 hours and I'm not feeling well. I'd like to look at aircraft too. If you don't get your fat ass out of my seat, I should call the cabin crew and ask them to crowbar you out. Thank God Amsterdam to London Heathrow is only a 40-minute hop because the look she gave me for the entire flight would have curdled milk. Alright you guys, that's it for today's video. If you enjoyed this kind of content, don't forget to like and subscribe. And I will see you tomorrow for some more Flightmare stories from this Choosing Beggars subreddit. I hope that you have a good day, and I will talk to you tomorrow.